Welcome back to the Lips React channel. I am Lips, and we are watching the penultimate season of, penultimate season, but the penultimate episode of season 2 of Dark. This episode is titled The White Devil, which is something that has been brought up a few times before, but I don't think I yet know who the White Devil is. So we're gonna, I don't know, whatever, we're gonna experience this episode together, whether this is your first time ever here on the channel or your 17th time. Assuming you've watched, maybe you've watched every single Dark episode or more. Maybe you've watched other things as well. Thank you for being here. If you want full-length reactions to this or anything else you see here, head over to Patreon. Otherwise, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the episode.
Der Mensch ist ein eigenartiges Geschöpf.
Martha?
All sein Handeln ist motiviert aus Verlangen.
All their actions are driven by desire, while old
Sein
Adam looks at
Charakter
Martha.
geschmiedet aus Schmerz.
Their characters forged by pain. Yeah. Oh. Oh.
So sehr er auch versucht, den Schmerz des Verlangens zu unterdrücken.
Hello? Wait.
Ich kann er sich doch frei machen von der ewigen Knechtschaft seiner Gefühle. Denn solange der Sturm in ihm tobt, kann er keinen Frieden finden.
Well, I'm gonna find no peace if you don't start answering questions.
Nicht im Tod.
Okay, were we all seeing things?
Und so wird er Tag für Tag alles tun, was nötig ist.
Okay.
Der Schmerz, sein Schiff.
Okay.
Das Verlangen, sein Kompass.
Desire. Oh, that's beautifully done.
Wozu der Mensch doch fähig ist.
That was beautifully done. I was like, I thought they were dropping bombs on us. I thought that outfit that Hannah was wearing was very like 50s coded maybe. And I was like, well, that's a bomb drop. And then she looks at old Rick, and then, although I don't know, that might have been real. Hannah's standing over the bed of Jonas. I thought Hannah was going to be much more of like a proper villain and trust. She has done some bad stuff, but there's a lot of human in her that I feel empathy for. Easy for me to say though, my name's not Katarina, so. But she does give me the heebie-jeebies. 1954.
Die Tote ist 1,72 Meter, 75.
Claudia?
Auffällig sind noch die Augen. Ein blaues, ein braunes. Nennt sich Heterochromie.
Oh my gosh, Egon sees his dead daughter.
Diese Frau war sie. Sie war auf dem Polizeirevier. Am gleichen Tag, als der kleine Helge wieder aufgetaucht ist. Er hat sich für irgendwas entschuldigt. Ich hab nicht verstanden, wofür.
Oh, wow.
Am gleichen Tag, als Helge zurückgekommen ist. Vielleicht ist sie die Komplizin von dem Verrückten. Hat Helge bei sich gehabt, die ganze Zeit.
Oh, wow. I mean...
Da ist noch was anderes. Der Körper ist völlig verstrahlt.
How? You came across this on accident? How?
Überall.
Whoa.
Eigenartig.
Hat vielleicht als Röntgentechnikerin gearbeitet.
Röntgentechnikerin.
They're just making up stories. Oh, you know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of that quote in the 80s when the guy goes to Egon and he's like, we need proof or whatever. We can't just make things up.
4 Millionen zerfallen.
Oh, Sie sind schon hier?
She never left, did she?
Ich muss die Zeit vergessen haben. Welcher Tag ist heute?
Oh no.
26. Juni?
Day your dad
Waren Sie die ganze
dies.
Nacht hier?
Damn.
26. Juni.
Ist was?
This poor assistant.
Ich habe das Meeting mit den Franzosen für heute Vormittag neu angesetzt.
Oh. I feel
Frau
so
Tiedemann?
bad for her. I wonder how much frustration she's had to field because her boss keeps doing this to her. Wait, is the briefcase there or no? Nope. So maybe that was real. Oh, no, this is, I think, the Hannah we know. I just was thrown off by the outfit. Well, but anything could be true. Wait, so then when she was looking at Ulrich in that first shot. K bless you. Oh, look at that little tattoo. Nuclear power plant, what's behind the door? Wait, they're both gonna end up there. Uh-oh.
Das hat alles was mit mir zu tun. Noah hat gesagt, dass die Welt morgen untergeht. Und dass nur die Leute im Bunker überleben.
Oh. Oh. Oh.
Und er hat gesagt, dass sie lebt. Meine Mutter.
Oh.
Die Unterlagen von der Passbehörde Marburg sind da.
Can I see that photo again? I didn't realize you were going to be holding it.
Es gibt unter dem Namen Alexander Köhler in dem gesuchten Zeitraum nur eine einzige Registrierung.
Und da sahen die Augen und hörten die Ohren. Und nichts war mehr verborgen.
This guy. Is that Freud? Oh.
Sagen Sie Herrn Wöller Bescheid.
Wir müssen das jemandem sagen.
Und vor allem was, hä?
Willst du vielleicht auch mal was sagen?
Wait, and then Adam said in everyone in the bunker.
Ich glaube, er ist hier.
Wer?
Or something.
Jonas.
Wir sind durch die Zeit gereist und das ist das Einzige, was dich interessiert?
Oh.
Du hast doch gesagt, dass er Teil davon ist. Vielleicht weiß er ja im Gegensatz zu dir, was das Ganze hier bedeutet. Vielleicht weiß er, wo Papa ist oder Mickel oder keine Ahnung, Mann.
Fair.
Jonas hat recht. Wir müssen es jemandem sagen. Man, alle machen seit Monaten nur ihren eigenen Scheiß. Alle schweigen. Und was hat es gebracht? Nichts.
Okay,
Can't argue.
dann machen wir das.
Wir. Hier gibt's doch kein Wir.
Oh no, Martha. Oh no.
Das gab's doch noch nie.
Was soll das denn jetzt heißen?
Dass du monatelang wusstest, was hier abgeht und du hast es weder mir noch irgendjemand anderem von uns gesagt.
Okay. I can understand that frustration.
Macht doch, was ihr wollt.
That sucks. Because it feels more personal, right? It's one of those things where like, well, yeah, no, that's logical and reasonable that you wouldn't want to work with him. And am I hinting some additional frustration?
Helge ist noch sehr erschöpft.
Kennst du diese Frau?
This poor kid.
Antworte dem Herrn Hauptmeister.
Warst du vielleicht bei ihr?
I understand the connection to the
Hat sie dich eingesperrt?
pain of her having her son Helgi come from what happened.
Er hat mir von ihr erzählt.
It still makes me sad.
Dem weißen Teufel.
She's the white devil. Claudia is. That makes sense. The hair.
Wer hat dir von ihr erzählt? Der Mann, der dir das da angetan hat?
No. Adam? Noah? What happened? He was gone for months. So, who all did he meet? Probably not just Noah. I mean, obviously, he seems to know about Claudia.
Der weiße Teufel. Erzähl mir etwas über den weißen Teufel.
Sie will uns töten.
He seems to only
Sie ist
say
tot.
what he's been told to
Sie kann
say.
niemandem mehr wehtun.
Aber sie hat doch noch gar nicht damit angefangen.
Poor Egon. Poor Egon. Forever being fooled and twisted and made to look like an idiot because of time travel. And people knowing more than him. Oh.
Musst du nicht bei der Arbeit sein?
Wir hatten doch besprochen, dass du zu uns ziehst.
She's
Du
so...
hast gesagt, ich soll darüber nachdenken.
Oh. She didn't mean that. She meant come move in right now.
Warum Zeit verschwenden? Und dann kommst du hier mal raus.
Ich mag es hier. Ich muss los. Erste Chemo.
Kann ich dich vielleicht begleiten?
Oh.
Also, nur wenn du möchtest.
Oh. Oh. Was there a time on that article?
Was wollen Sie hier?
Ich möchte, dass Sie sich etwas anschauen. Herr Wöller,
Oh. Uh-oh.
die Daten Ihres letzten Personalausweises, bevor Sie Marburg verlassen haben.
Oh.
Ich habe keine Ahnung, wofür das relevant sein sollte.
Fällt Ihnen nichts auf?
Was sollte mir da auffallen?
He is sweating.
1,71, schätze ich mal. Maximal. In
How
dem Dokument
tall?
steht aber 1,75. Also, wo sind Sie?
Damn.
Wo ist was?
Die 4 Zentimeter.
Das ist doch lächerlich.
He got caught because of 2 inches?
Ich werde Sie festnehmen,
Oh, he
wegen des
doesn't play
Verdachts auf
around.
Identitätsmissbrauchs.
Oh shit, Big Detective Clausen doesn't mess around. And you know, you can see it on Wooler's face that he knows something. I need to go back and look at that photo.
Hannah?
No, no, Katharina didn't.
Zu Hause?
Jonas? What is... Why fear?
Hallo?
I'm assuming that's Katharina.
Zu Hause, bitte mach bitte die Tür auf.
I actually can't tell. Oh, it's Martha.
Wer sind Sie?
Oh, no.
Ich wollte mit Hannah sprechen.
Sie ist nicht hier. Willst du was trinken?
Oh, wow. They're both... Look at their body
Mach ich dir
language on
Angst?
them both. Do I scare you? Oh.
Ich glaube, ich habe gerade ein Déjà-vu oder so. Ich gehe mal lieber.
Ein Fehler in der Matrix. Oder eine Botschaft aus dem Jenseits.
That's what she said, a glitch in the Matrix. At the lake, right?
Du hast den Anhänger gefunden.
Uh-oh.
Jonas.
Oh. Wow, she clocked that fast.
Glaubst du, dass ich ein guter Politiker...
This is one of the images in the intro.
Ich bin mir sicher, du warst gut in dem, was du getan hast.
Eigentlich glaube ich das nicht.
Oh.
Du warst immer anders.
Oh.
Du hast die Welt von Anfang an anders gesehen.
Oh.
Manchmal denke ich, dass das mein Problem ist. Dass ich die Welt nicht so sehen kann, wie sie wirklich ist. Ich glaube, ich habe etwas sehr, sehr Dummes gemacht.
Oh, do you feel bad about not letting Ulrich go?
Kennst du diesen Film mit dem jungen Kerl, der mit seinem Auto...
Back to the Future?
Das aus dem Film, das gibt es wirklich. Zeitreise.
She knows too. Why is she...
Und irgendwie
Wait, is she gonna kill her own dad?
hat das alles mit Mats und Helge zu tun. Und den Dingen, die vor über 30 Jahren passiert sind.
Yes. She looked so uncomfortable.
In ihrem Büro wartet eine Frau auf sie. Es geht um den Mann in der Anstalt. Der die Knaben umgebracht hat.
Hannah's here?
Sie sagt, sie kennt ihn.
Oh, Hannah. That explains why she looks like... Why she looked like she was dressed like she's from the 50s. Because that's where she went.
Wie kann ich Ihnen helfen?
Ich suche meinen Mann.
I just feel like the motivation for being here is perhaps a bit twisted and selfish.
Sieht ihm ähnlich.
Sie wissen, dass er letzten Winter verhaftet wurde wegen mehrfachen Mordes.
Kann ich ihn sehen?
Er redet nicht.
Aber vielleicht redet er ja mit mir.
Maybe he will.
Darf ich Sie nach Ihrem Namen fragen?
Nielsen. Katharina Nielsen.
Oh, man. I mean, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. Well done to her.
Wo warst du die ganze Zeit?
Ich habe dir versprochen, das alles wieder gut zu machen.
Es tut mir so leid.
Oh.
Es macht plötzlich alles Sinn. Wenn man es weiß, dann sieht man sofort.
Hannah!
Mach da nicht. Bitte.
Uh-oh. Oh. Uh-oh.
Martha?
Uh-oh.
Weißt du, wer das ist? Hat er dir gesagt, wo dein Bruder ist? Wer dein Bruder ist?
How did he yet?
Ist der Sohn deines Bruders. Mein Enkel und dein Neffe. Mikkel ist Michael Kahnwald. Martha, verstehst du? Und du bist seine Tante.
Sorry, Martha. Katharina is so... I mean, she's correct for that. I've made my peace with it because I'm starting... I think everyone's related. So I'm like, whatever. But no, Katharina's correct. Sorry, Martha. Oh.
Glaub mir, ich wollte...
Wo ist deine Maschine?
Oh.
Hannah hat sie. Sie ist verschwunden.
Hannah?
She beat you to the punch.
Du sagst mir jetzt, wie ich Mikkel zurückholen kann.
Mama! Magnus hat den Apparat.
Oh.
Hast du Mikkel gesehen? Mikkel, du lässt deine dreckigen Finger von ihr.
Good job, Katerina. You know, can't blame her. I really can't. That was most parenting we have seen in this show in a hot minute. While I've made my peace with aunt and nephew getting their boogie on, I certainly think that was the right, correct thing to do. Ethically. Oh.
Mein Bruder ist auch spurlos verschwunden.
Oh. Your brothers?
Ganz ähnlich wie das Verschwinden von Mats Nielsen hier.
Oh.
Und er hieß auch Alexander.
Oh.
Alexander Köhler. Genau genommen gibt es über 700 gemeldete Alexander Köhlers in Deutschland.
That's kind of a few.
Das ist gar nicht so einfach, jeden einzelnen Alexander Köhler aufzuspüren. Insbesondere, wenn man den Nachnamen der Frau angenommen hat. Glauben Sie mir, ich spreche aus Erfahrung. Nach der Trennung meiner Eltern habe ich den Nachnamen meiner Mutter angenommen.
Oh.
Und für manche Menschen bin ich bis heute unauffindbar. Aber vor ein paar Monaten ist das hier passiert.
What? Somebody wrote him a letter?
Wer Augen hat zu sehen und Ohren zu hören, bezeugt sich, dass die Sterblichen kein Geheimnis verbergen können. Der schwätzt mit den Fingerspitzen.
Okay.
Und aus allen Poren dringt ihm der Verrat.
Clausen? You're scaring me.
Die Antworten zu ihrem Bruder finden Sie in Winden.
Oh, wow. Who the heck?
Aber eins weiß ich ganz sicher. Sie sind definitiv nicht mein Bruder.
Well, and he's not wrong. Who would write that letter?
Der Mann hat nie ein Geständnis abgelegt. Er hat immer wiederholt, dass er die Kinder retten wollte. Sie und Ihr Mann, Sie haben Kinder, ja?
Nein.
Hannah?
Er hat immer gesagt, dass er seinen Sohn sucht.
Hannah, I know you and Ulrich didn't have kids.
Es mag etwas merkwürdig klingen, aber
That looks worse for Ulrich, doesn't it?
haben Sie schon einmal etwas von einem weißen Teufel gehört?
Nein. Was soll das sein?
Wenn er mit Ihnen redet,
Did she know about the White Devil?
falls er mit Ihnen redet, bringen Sie ihn dazu, mit der Polizei zu sprechen. Bringen Sie ihn dazu, ein Geständnis abzulegen.
Und der Mann kam aus der Zukunft? Und gestern hat dieser Mann versucht, den Jungen zu entführen.
Nicht dieser Mann. Also derselbe Mann, nur in älter. Das klingt alles völlig irre.
Der Mann. Der Alte.
Oh. We don't look
Wo ist der
sick.
jetzt?
Zurück in der Psychiatrie.
Das reicht jetzt. Du ziehst zu uns.
Oh, shit. Well, and you know he's not crazy.
Dann glaubst du mir.
Oh. So you believe me. So well, yeah, not only does she believe you probably, but she's scared for you too.
Nach wann? Nach wann?
Ihr wusstet von dem ganzen Zeitreisescheiß. Warum habt ihr nichts gesagt?
Martha, Jonas ist wieder da.
They're like, oh, we know.
Aber er ist älter.
I have chills.
Es ist besser, wenn ihr euch da raushaltet.
That sucks. All of a sudden you want a parent, Charlotte?
Das ist genau das, was alles kaputt macht! Eure ganzen Scheißgeheimnisse!
She's not wrong.
Ich würde gerne kurz mit ihm alleine sprechen.
Meinetwegen.
Oh.
Mach ich bin's. Hannah.
Bist du wirklich?
Damn. Wasn't the last thing he said to her to leave him alone? Now he's calling her an angel? Damn.
Ja.
Oh no. What if Katerina comes back next? And tries to do the same thing and then they won't let her because they're like, no. We've heard this story before.
Weißt du, wo Mikkel ist? Katharina. Wie geht's, Katharina?
Oh, she knows where Mikkel is.
Es fühlt sich irgendwie anders an, dich wiederzusehen. Wenn du heute wählen könntest. Zwischen Katharina und mir.
You skank. Oh, Hannah, I was saying nice things about you earlier. Now I look like a fool. I've got egg on my face.
Ich habe versucht, mich zu erinnern, ob du jemals "Ich liebe dich" zu mir gesagt hast.
Ja, dich liebt.
Oh, loved, past tense.
Hol mich hier raus, dann verlasse ich Katharina.
Er hat gesagt, ich brauche niemanden. Aber die Wahrheit ist, ihr braucht mich nicht.
Oh.
Ich tue alles, was du willst. Hol mich hier raus, bitte.
Holy shit.
Ich liebe dich. Hannah, bleib!
Oh. Now this guy's gonna be like, you said your name was Katarina.
Ähnlichkeiten mit ihm, aber ist das nicht mein Mann?
Wow. Wow. Oh, poor Egon. Oh. At this point, you could tell me that the kids are the parents. I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense.
Hast du die Maschine dabei?
So how is there more than one machine? Is that a different kind of paradox?
Weißt du, wie sie funktioniert?
Weiß ich nicht.
We'll put it in the briefcase. Oh, she's not gonna ask any questions? She's just...
Sie leben.
Oh.
Sie sind noch nicht hier. Sie sind in einer anderen Zeit.
Hol einfach schnell deine Tabletten. Für alles andere kommen wir wann anders wieder. Komm, wir wollen los.
She wants to get out of there so bad.
Ich frage mich, warum er mit ihnen in die Höhlen wollte.
Well.
Vielleicht ist da was in den Höhlen.
Papa, lass das jetzt.
She wants him to stop because there is something in the caves.
Auch 53 wollte er dahin. Vielleicht ist da etwas.
Da ist nichts in den Höhlen. Können wir jetzt?
What does she know that has her so afraid of being honest with him? Oh no.
Warum bist du wirklich hier?
Oh.
Du weißt es.
Was weiß ich?
Das alles hat mit dem AKW zu tun.
Ich möchte jetzt gehen.
Oh no.
Du steckst da mit drin.
Oh, I mean, he's not wrong. I don't think.
Wir müssen die Höhlen durchsuchen lassen.
Da ist nichts in den Höhlen! Es gibt keine Zeitreise!
Uh-oh. Wow.
Was machst du da?
Ich rufe in der Wache an.
Oh no.
Du verstehst nichts. Was in den Höhlen ist größer als alles, was die Wissenschaft je entdeckt hat. Und du willst das alles aufs Spiel setzen? Für nichts?
Du hast dich nicht geändert.
What do you mean you haven't changed?
Dir geht es immer noch nur um dich.
Oh, interesting.
Du hast kein Herz.
Oh, and that's not true. Oh, no.
Gottes Willen, Papa. Bleib genauso liegen.
Oh my God, you got your dad killed.
Ich rufe einen Krankenwagen.
And then why don't you?
Komm schon.
Notruf finden? Hallo? Hallo?
Well, maybe he was right. Holy shit. You're Claudia.
Du wirst Opfer bringen müssen.
That's crazy.
Alles wird so geschehen, wie es schon immer geschehen ist. Aber wenn alles gelingt, dann wird sie leben. Regina.
That's complicated, actually.
Es tut mir so leid.
Du bist der weise Teufel.
He figured it out. Oh, wow. Oh. Imagine your last thought and your last words thinking and, I mean, in his perspective, realizing that Claudia is a bad person. Now, we have a different perspective. We have a bigger picture to look at. I don't know that A plus B equals C for labeling Claudia a bad person, but there's certainly things to discuss about choosing, I mean, what she did there. But she chose her daughter over her dad.
Es tut mir leid.
Machen Sie sich doch keine Vorwürfe.
Nils, Ungewöhnlicher Name. Kennen Sie eine Agnes Nielsen?
Nein.
Sie reisen heute noch zurück?
Da, wo ich herkomme, habe ich alles verloren. Alles, was ich will, ist ein Neuanfang.
Oh no, is he gonna cheat on Doris with Hannah? Wow, you sat there for a long time, girl.
Something come
You
in
know her?
because
Oh wow. Okay, wow. I love when the Okay, so that must be the real Alexander with him, Clausen. Yeah? Holy shit. She doesn't know how to work this. You could go to Jonas and ask for help. She doesn't trust anyone, does she? Oh. We've seen a very similar shot of Alexander walking through that door before, I think. Looking a lot less disheveled, but... I'm glad to see her cry about letting her dad die. Oh. Oh. Jonas is here.
Warum hast du einen Schlüssel zu meinem Haus?
Du hast sie mir gegeben, bevor du gegangen bist.
Sie hat ihn dir gegeben. Mein älteres Ich.
Well?
Wir müssen jetzt gehen. Wir haben nicht mehr viel Zeit.
Ich verstehe nicht.
Oof. Oh, I have chills.
Ich weiß, was du getan hast. Sie hat es mir gesagt.
My walls are up on empathy with her because...
Aber sie hat auch gesagt, dass es nicht wieder so passieren muss.
Oh.
Nächstes
I've heard
Mal.
that before.
Wohin gehen wir?
In die Zukunft.
Okay. The future. Ay, caramba. Holy. I'm very on edge. I don't know if conflicted is the right word. I see where it's interesting with shows like this because we're allowed the bigger picture, which I think sometimes gives us this opportunity or like puts us in a position where we can underscore. No, that's not the word I want to use there. Almost invalidate the characters' feelings and actions, or we rationalize them differently. And I think that's natural because, you know, the thing about specifically with this show and the way that I watch this show and the way that I present this show is an opportunity for me to, the reaction part is that by watching the show twice and by giving myself that extra time to kind of reanalyze some of this stuff, the reaction part is kind of, I try to let it be the initial emotion. And I find myself kind of trying to, well, and that's just true to, it's because it helps with the after conversation, like understanding all the sides of it. But my favorite thing about the way that I'm doing the show, my favorite thing about the depth of this show and what this show has to offer is the analysis part of it, is the after the episode kind of diving into the characters, diving into the bigger picture. Because the thing is we get this outside bird's eye view of this show. One of my favorite things that happens when I watch a show that oddly enough, doesn't happen with this show. However, this show transcends past this and becomes one of the best experiences of television I've ever experienced. Because a lot of times I can the experience of a show is marked by how immersed I feel in it. And what I mean by that is that sometimes I watch something and I feel like I'm right there with them. I feel like I'm in the world. I feel like I'm the character or one of the characters, or like just I'm there. You know, I don't feel like I am watching a story unfold. I feel like I'm in a story unfolding. And I think some people will understand that and some people won't understand that. That feeling. It's the same when I read books. When I'm reading a book and somebody like asks me a question, sometimes it'll take me a second to actually understand that someone in the real world is asking something to me, because the book is right here in my hands, but the entire world around me is what I'm visualizing from those pages, right? I am the character. I am walking down the street. I am, the person, there's a person in front of me. I'm having a conversation with them. Like, I become, like, the world around me kind of leaves. And sometimes recently I watched Widow's Bay. Those reactions have been starting going up here. And I love that show. And I think that Widow's Bay is, Dark will always, I think, we have a season and the finale of season 2 left, but Dark, I had a feeling going into this, Dark would be really, really special to me because of the way that I was approaching it for the channel, because it allows me to really like lean into what I'm passionate about here. And I think it has that depth and it has that meat to it, and the story has gotten me a few twists and turns. Widow's Bay was a show where like the world, like everything in my room became Widow's Bay. Like I would forget that I was watching a show. And Dark, I'm very aware, but not aware in that it breaks the immersion, but I do, it's a different experience. There was a point for me saying that regardless. Now I think I've gone off on a tangent. That's par for the course here. If this is your first time, sorry, you can speed it up. Question. Do let me know down in the comments. Do you listen, especially to this part of the video, or like podcasts? When I listen to podcasts, I listen to them at 1.25 speed. And just curious if there's anyone out there that does that to me, because I take no offense to that, but I don't know if everyone always listens to things at 1 times speed. Anywho, I think this show, when I watch it and in these conversations, and sometimes in the moment, you'll see me kind of try to take a beat and understand the character more. But like the Claudia and Egon part is so difficult because there's so much that I can understand from both sides, and it's brutal for both of them. The outcome is so brutal, and I question, and I think, like, is this idea that everything has to happen the way that it always has its own special kind of hellacious paradox, where in that moment Claudia could have made a different choice, but in that moment she was reminded of Regina, she was reminded of what older her said, and she made that choice. I don't know. I really don't, but I want to dive a little bit more into each of the characters in this one. Obviously we have what Hannah did. We have Katarina's moment in this, and I'm going to go watch this again, but we have a lot to break down in this. Okay, so you won't know that I'm gone, but I'll see you in just a second. Let's dive into this, buckaroos. Okay, so the first part for the intro starts on this episode is, I feel like it's so juicy, and it lines up with what Adam, the voiceover, and then it reminds me of this like concept and theming around like ghosts and the like line about ghosts we've read from the past, and then also the episode titled Ghosts, right? Because the characters are kind of looking at ghosts. Now, the lines that stuck out to me the most that were being said in the voiceover was that we're motivated by our desires, our characters are forged by pain. And this is being said, right, while I think we just have 4 different instances of this like ghost scenario. There might have been more, and I didn't write them down. I wrote down this like whole page during that time, and it was a lot while the episode was going the second time I watched. And so we have Adam looking at Martha. So oldest Jonas that we know looking at Martha. I think the only Martha we know. In this moment, we have Hannah looking at Ulrich while she's taking the time traveling machine from Jonas. Then we have Jonas, young Jonas, or not a kid, but, the first Jonas we meet looking at Martha. The same age one, at least. And then Katerina is looking at Mikkel. Okay, right, we have motivated by desire, forged by pain. Eternal servitude to his feelings. As long as the storm rages within, he cannot find peace. Our pain is the vessel, desire is the compass. There's just something about this correlation of this verbiage over those images that kind of helps unlock, I guess, a little bit of motivation, right? We know, especially with what we see of Hannah in this episode, that character forged by pain really fits her to a T. Because everything we know about her is this kind of like hunting and searching and desperately aching for connection and attention. Maybe even attention over connection. Because she gets attention, she just, she wants it from who she wants it from, which that I get, but the action she takes when she doesn't get the attention that she wants is... Look, it's unfortunate. We can talk a little bit more about her here in a minute, but it really stood out to me specifically for her. It's interesting that we get that Adam moment looking at Martha, and then we also get Jonas looking at Martha, and both of those, Adam and Jonas are one and the same, right? But the version, the yellow jacket Jonas that we know versus the time travel affected older Jonas that goes by Adam feel like two separate characters, truthfully, So it's like that, seeing them both looking at Martha and being like, okay, they both seem to still have this same desire, this same goal, this same compass, desire is compass, pain equals vessel. And then I think the Katerina looking at Mikkel one is interesting, and I think that kind of comes into play for more conversation fodder in a little bit, because I'll wait. There will be a thing about Katerina and Mikkel a little bit later in my thoughts. And then for a little bit of the second time watching this, I was trying to hunt down this line that was said to Helgi, and I finally found it in my notes. It was said in the 7th episode of season 1. See, taking all these notes, it comes in handy. It did take me a second to find it, but I did remember this line, and I had indeed written it down. And I can't remember who said this to Egon, but somebody said, this isn't the 1950s. We base off of evidence, not hunches. And there's just so many instances we see it in this episode when they're looking at Claudia's body, where they're making up a story. They're writing a story to explain what's happening instead of gathering evidence. And in a lot of ways, that's a faulty justice system, right? Because it's like, we're not in a creative writing class. We're trying to, keep order and bring down justice and, do it correctly to the people who are actually doing the crimes. And they're just making, to some extent, I'm like, okay, is this because this is just the way things were done in the 1950s? Or were they done in the 1950s like this because there was because the guy, it's Hannah's dad, right? Because he is a traveler maybe and had to hide things or cover things up. But interestingly enough, right, because Hannah's now in the 50s and her dad was the one talking to Egon about basically going out and getting a side piece, or at least getting some woo-hooing with somebody that wasn't his wife, because his wife isn't giving him enough attention right now, which, to be fair, because his wife is cheating on him. Very interesting that at the end of this episode, we see them kind of, I'm reading that as sexual tension in the room. Maybe I'm wrong, but I am reading that as sexual tension in the room. And then, of course, Charlotte says it's all related to me, which, no, kind of, but no, certain portions of it are related to her for sure, but is all of it related to her? I don't know, but also, maybe, because obviously the 4 families that Adam has his sights on are problematic in the sense that I think he wants everyone to die. Wait, is that his whole goal, is just everyone dies? My thinking is that now that we've unlocked this line, well, Charlotte kind of clarified something that I think Jonas had said to her, only those in the bunker make it, is what she said in this episode. So I'm like, do somehow those 4 families find their way to the bunker and survive the apocalypse? And that is actually what creates the paradox? And that the apocalypse is the Big Bang or the Big Crunch? I don't even know which one would make sense there. I guess the Big Crunch, and then it all starts over again. But because they survive, it creates this problematic paradox or something. I'm kind of just choosing, I'm not going to lie, in that last sentence, I think I just blacked out and chose a couple of words that just make sense. And I don't actually even know if that makes sense. I'm not a physicist, but maybe in another life. I don't know. Oh, my big thing with little Helgi right now, right, in the 50s, is that he very much seems to be like hypnotized or something. We know that the older version of Helgi kind of just repeats a lot of the same things over and over again. And one of the things that I've kind of not fully landed on a full conclusion about, but like a lot of what he says kind of seems like he is continuing to repeat things that he's been told. Now we see like a middle version of Helgi who does seem to have a few more wits about him, but I think when that like dimension starts to kick in, or like maybe there's like a sort of like stress or tension that activates like tension, or like a like cancel all personality of Helgi button, a failsafe that they've implemented in him, and he just kind of starts to repeat the same stuff he's said over and over again, like TikTok and certain other things. It kind of seems like he has like Egon, like they knew what Egon would ask, and like they activated these like secret words into Helgi, because he's like looking down and he's not talking, and then Egon asks him like to tell him about the White Devil. And then he slowly lifts his head up and answers the question. And then Egon tries to ask something else. And he lowers his head back down. Egon asks another question. He lifts his head back up and he answers the question very directly. No stuttering, nothing, just like straight, clear cut. I don't know. It feels like he's like hypnotized or something. It feels a little eerie. Now, maybe I'm looking into things too much, but you know, I don't know. But of course, this narrative kind of works for what, you know, the scent that the police are already on. She wants to kill all of us, but she hasn't even begun yet. And they're like, okay, well, yeah, then she was connected to these murders. She's connected to Ulrich in the jail, and like that we already have. We're done. We did it. And you know, it's like, to our knowledge, at least at this moment, nothing else happens for another 33 years. So like, they're probably patting themselves on the back, being like, we did it. We solved this. I'm very excited we're getting more into the Alexander of it all, because it's very, very obvious that Wooler and Alexander are in on something together. Oh, and I want to say, I do understand the creation of Helgi. I still think it's cruel and very depressing that his mom is so mean to him. I understand from her perspective that she went through something traumatic and that's why he's here. It breaks my heart because Helgi doesn't deserve that, you know? But like, I'm not ever going to not be pissed at her for being an adult and being cruel to a child. That child is innocent. And I do get it, but I still think it sucks. And like in that moment too, he's like been beaten and she's like still so cruel to him. Like I fully get it. And in that same breath, it really sucks how she treats Helgi. Anyway, back to this. So the Wooler-Alexander thing, I'm really glad we're getting back to that, because like I'm really glad to finally understand why it was so obvious that Clausen was there for Alexander, or not actually for the case that was in front of him. Now maybe he thinks there's a connection, but doubtful. He wanted to get here. He had a reason to get here. He can now kind of trace down the Alexander stuff that he needs to know about. So Alexander gets arrested right for identity theft. And then we skip back, we go to Martha meets Middle Jonas, and that was a very interesting encounter because they were both so terrified of each other for a moment, and then Martha just fully did, like, locked in, clocked in, accepted the reality so fast. I think that has been the few people who have like locked in on the reality of the time travel quickly have been some of the more fascinating. Obviously, though, she just time traveled, so I think that makes a lot of sense why. Because next we go to Egon and Claudia, which, like, holy shit. The Egon and Claudia stuff, it makes sense why everybody was like, a few episodes ago, we had that, like, all those scenes with Egon and Claudia, and people were like, man, those Egon and Claudia scenes are so good. And I was like, yes, I fully agree. Didn't question anything of it. I'm not trying to say I thought that was like a leading comment or anything. Didn't question anything of it. I was like, yes, so they really were, weren't they? But of course I was like, we've had so much of Egon's story, we've had so much of Claudia's story, then they come together. Those scenes were really good. But we kind of get a full circle here to find out more about the two of them specifically. And I mean, I think we have a lot of gold in this episode, but the Claudia Egon stuff continues to be such a dynamic and upsetting and like juicy material to dive into. I mean, for starters, we get this really positive line. Well, we get Egon's like questioning his skills as a police officer, which I've said this a few times and I'll continue to say this. I feel bad for Egon because we've seen him in multiple different timelines, or at least the two, right? We've seen him actually try to find answers and actually try to get justice and solve these cases, these like really difficult cases, and he gets a lot of hate for the cases not being solved, but I have some empathy for him because the time travel of it all is like, if you don't know about that, which either there are people above him who do know about it and are working overtime to hide it, or maybe not even overtime, because who's like second thought or first thought or third thought or even 100th thought when you're trying to solve the case is time travel. We've seen him try. Yeah, he was a dig to Ulrich, but Ulrich was kind of a handful of a teenager, right? And Ulrich and Katerina were kind of mean. So, like, I can kind of see why, especially because Ulrich was bullying Egon's daughter, which he probably knew, so probably was like, or maybe he didn't know for sure, maybe he had an idea of what was going on there. So it's like, of course he's gonna, I mean, is it an abuse of power to like hyper focus on that kid and like make it personal? Yeah, absolutely. Egon was a grown-ass man in those scenarios, but I do get the frustration with Ulrich. He's like questioning his skills as a police officer, and I think that sucks because a lot of it did come down to the time travel of it all, which, like, how could you have solved that? And I think he tries up until his last breath. But in that car ride, in the hospital when he's getting his chemo, he says to Claudia, "You were always different. You saw the world differently right from the start." And it's said positively, right? And we hear him say something kind of similar, but said very negatively at the end. And he says, I don't think I can see the world for what it actually is. And I don't know, there's something about that I want to like keep thinking about and keep diving into. And maybe you guys have like more thoughts on that line specifically and why it stands out so much, because I don't know. I think him understanding the time travel aspect and then like starting to piece everything together, I think there's a lot of shame that he has, that he couldn't bring justice or bring peace to families who were grieving and in a really bad place. And he wears a lot of that on his shoulders. But I think ultimately, like, he tried in his last moments to like get somebody to the caves to figure out what was going on, to solve the cases that were left unanswered. And I think there's honor in that somewhere. It's messy, but that there's something positive in that, I think. Oh, okay, so Hannah takes herself to the 50s, which is quite an interesting thing. Now, obviously, we'll get into the Hannah of it all more, but I think this pulls back to something kind of interesting about Katerina had said to Hannah, and obviously this comes up when Hannah is talking to Ulrich, but she had said that Ulrich would always choose her, and I fully understand. Okay, Katerina said that Ulrich would always choose her to Hannah, right? Which probably is true from everything that we knew prior to this, even though he said differently to her when he was in a moment of desperation. I think, and while it's it's understandable yet an interesting parallel, right? I'm not trying to say that I think it's weird or that I think she should go for her husband first, but like, it is an interesting parallel that Hannah has the thing and chooses to go back to get Ulrich. And I think Katerina is, and I think this also stands out to me because we see that first image where like Hannah sees the ghost of Ulrich, Katerina sees the ghost of Mikkel, and I just think it's an interesting parallel that I'm assuming that Katerina is going to try to go get Mikkel instead of Ulrich. But I fully understand it. I just think it's an interesting note. An interesting parallel. But again, don't mistake me finding interest in an action for me not understanding it. Anywho. Hannah, though, really shows her cards by being so selfish, by being like, no, we didn't have kids. Because, yeah, no, duh, you and Ulrich didn't have kids because you're not his wife, but you're playing Katerina, and him and Katerina do have kids. So why, like, it's so selfish of her to go to that time and tell a lie, or I mean, it's a truth, but she's also telling a truth while telling a lie. A weird paradox there. And then kind of like making Ulrich look like a liar by saying, no, we don't have kids. But Katerina does have kids with Ulrich, and you're pretending to be Katerina. And Ulrich has said he's here to save the kids because he has a kid. He's looking for his kid. So it just goes to show like how selfish Hannah is even in that moment. She's like, no, we don't have kids. Oh, okay, well, but obviously we see where that lands with Egon later. Because if she had a kid, then she wouldn't have been able, if he knew that she had kids with this guy, she wouldn't have been able to stay. Okay, but that's actually, I'm getting ahead of myself because we're back to Martha with Jonas, and they're sitting at the table, and Jonas says, I promised I would try to make it all right. And then a big sigh, and he says, I am so sorry, as if he's already failed. And maybe I'm reading into that too much. I think that interaction was very awkward. It felt like there was something else, some other elephant in the room that I'm not aware of. And I think what this shows, sometimes I'm like, is this the tension that I know? Or is there other tension that I don't know yet? Because you haven't told me the thing. But I have this theory that the kids are actually the parents. Like that if they keep saying we don't know where it begins and where it ends and where it ends and where it begins, and maybe the beginning is the end and maybe the end is the beginning, then couldn't the kids be the parents? I don't know. Does that make sense to you what I'm saying? Like, couldn't there have been at some point the time travel with all the time travel, and then the kids canoodled, woohooed, and then that's where like Katerina came from and Ulrich came from, and they came from their own kids, and then they had the kids that then later produce the kids that have them or are their parents. Just, think about it. Think about the crazier things have happened in this show. Okay, and then of course we get the bomb drop that Clausen's brother disappeared in 86, and that is indeed the guy that Alexander is pretending to be. And I loved that moment. Nothing really to say about that other than like who did write that mysterious letter to Clausen. I don't know, Claudia. I don't know, Hannah. I don't know, Adam. Noah? Who knows? We do know that Clausen's parents are separated. I'm excited to see more and hear more from that little dramatic situation. Alexander's got himself in quite the pickle. It very much reminds me of when Ulrich is in that jail cell. Whilst I do have enjoyed the character of Alexander, while there's something like dark about him, there is also something comforting about him in that, like, I think a lot of that comes from this, like, sweetness and tenderness he has towards Regina. So I'm devastated for her that she has just lost him in her probably biggest time of need. I do think Hannah had an odd smile as if she knows something about the White Devil, but I can't remember if she does know something about the White Devil or if Jonas never told them about the White Devil, or I don't even know what. Franziska yells, "This is what ruins everything, all of your secrets," which again, so there we go again with the secrets. I think the theming of secrets and how those secrets produce problems instead of solving problems has been a huge theme in this show, and I am excited to see that continuation of that as we keep going. And then, of course, we have that moment with Ulrich and Hannah, and you know, it's just, I was about, like, I really, at the beginning of when I watched this, I was, like, kind of giving Hannah some kudos, giving Hannah some, like, claps and being proud of her, because I feel like, you know, I've given her a tough time in earlier episodes, and she really, like, she really twisted things around here, because, I mean, can I empathize with her that the man that she loved and wanted attention from so much was lying straight to her face? I would imagine he was lying to her, and didn't love her, and, like, you know, but she's the one who sought him out. I think those answers I think she probably had those answers in her mind without really going to Ulrich. So to go to him when he's in that position, to see how desperate he is, to see how sad he is, to see how devastating his position in life is, and then to walk away from him was kind of cruel, I think, all things considered. Because at first she was so happy to see him. We see this, like, big smile where she's, like, relieved. She's like, I found him. He's mine. And then he asks where Mikkel is. And then he asks where Katarina is. And then he asks about Martha and Magnus. But first he asks about Mikkel. And then he asks about Katarina. And you see this shift in her. And then he says, it feels so different seeing, or she says, it feels so different seeing you again. And then she asks him straight up, if you could choose today between Katarina and me. And he gives her the answer that she wants to hear. But in that moment, something has changed in her, just like he said, where she no longer accepts that. She finally sees that that's not true, and finally gets some self-respect, I guess. Do I think it's kind of cruel that she leaves Ulrich there and just goes and presumably is just going to stay in the 50s and start a new life? And, like, we know that she's not with Egon in the future, and we know that she's... I don't even know what we know. But we know that he's alone. We know that we haven't seen Doris in the future. And so I'm like, okay, clearly I need a few more stepping stones between point A to point Z, but happy to be here. Yeah, but yeah, I'll be interested to see the new path that Hannah forges for herself, you know? I think it sucks that Katarina just, like, gets the time machine from her kids and then just asks them how to use it. They don't know the answer. She just walks upstairs, icing her kids out. I'm afraid that if she tries to use that in her bedroom, it's, like, either not going to work, or it's going to cause some problems, or something bad is going to happen because of Katarina. It's like these continuation of just, like, isolating, of not working together is, like, seems so problematic, and it just sucks that Katarina continues that journey. And then, of course, we have the Egon and Claudia of it all. Egon is, you know, he's answering his own question. Am I a bad police officer? I think the answer is no. Especially in that moment, he's trying so hard to solve this case, even when he's retired. He's trying so hard to solve this case, even when he's sick and he could wash his hands of it, you know? But he can't, and he realizes that there's got to be something in the caves. There's got to be something in the caves, and Claudia tries to play dumb here. Now, she hasn't outright said she knows about time travel, but she's given him enough clues that he's like, okay, you believe me that this time travel stuff is real. So when push comes to shove, and push actually does come to shove, he realizes that Claudia knows all about time travel and that it must be connected to the caves. And he wants those caves to be explored, right? And in that moment, Claudia, stops him. It just raises this question. It feels like, again, one of those moments where it's like, is the elephant in the room here the elephant that I know about? Or is there a second mysterious elephant in the room that I don't know about? Is the elephant in the room that the power plant is involved and that they know about this God particle and they know about this time travel? Or is there something more, is there something worse going on here that we don't know about, that Claudia is keeping close to her chest because, one, it suits her to like keep it to herself because she needs that knowledge to gain power and keep moving and rising the ladder, going up the ladder. And then, of course, in her last moment, I think she lets him die and doesn't call the ambulance because she chooses Regina over him in that moment. And also she chooses Regina in that moment. But yeah, the thing about this show that I think is so good is that even when I know something, I feel like I don't know anything. So it's like, I know that Claudia knows about the caves and I know what Egon knows, but is there something more that I don't know? What I know is a drop in the ocean, and that's all that I know. And then, so of course we hear Egon tell her, you have no heart. So that he like said this in a nicer way earlier, but then he's like, you've always been this way. You've always been so selfish. You have no heart. But what I find to be very interesting about this decision that Claudia makes here is that a lot of it relies on this hope that she's been given, this pipe dream that she's been given, that if she lets Egon die and she lets everything happen as it's happened, like, as Claudia told her to do, then things can change. If she lets things happen as they happen, then Regina will be saved. If she lets things happen as they happen for now, then, I don't know that if in that moment she thinks that there will ever be a situation where Egon doesn't die at her hands, or push or shove or the tension that was created there. But she chooses Regina regardless. And I think that, that's an understandable thing. It's a really tense moment, but it's a frankly quite an understandable and really also in the same breath, like a dilemma that I'm not going to try to pretend that I know what choice I would make. If I'd been told that if everything happened as it always happened and she knows that Egon is found dead in his apartment, then if I let things happen the way they've always happened, including the bad things, then I might get a good turn of events where my daughter doesn't die. I'm not going to pretend to say that I know what I would choose in that moment, but I think it's one of the juiciest moments we've ever had. And of course, it's really just, again, that Egon and Claudia gold that this show has delivered to us. But I think it's just this big bit of hope that this show really plays to, of like, I don't know that this hope is real. I don't know that this hope is certain. I don't have any reason to believe that anyone's telling me the truth, So I feel like we keep going in these circles and we keep letting things happen the way that they're always meant to happen because that's what we've been told to do. But then that's the paradox of the whole damn thing. And I cannot wait to see the finale of this episode. Very excited to hear your guys' thoughts. Very excited to share the finale of this and get into season 3, even though I will be devastated to be starting our last season of the show. I truly have loved this journey. It activates this side of my brain. I am learning so much about kind of where my passion lies, how, like, the kinds of things I really love to do here and what I really love to dive into in terms of creating content in the reaction space. And I'm really grateful for you all for joining me on the journey. So hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already. And I'll see you next week for episode 8. Bye, guys.